All right, everybody. We are pleased to be joined by the Ottawa Senators' sixth round pick from the 2020 NHL draft, Phil Daoust. We are really pleased, really excited to have you on today, man, and I really appreciate your time. So, how are you doing today? We're recording, I'll throw the date out here. It's Thursday, November 16th. And for those watching later, I don't know when this is going to come out. The Senators just had a crazy game. So, obviously, that might even come up. Might mention some people who are playing that game that you might be close with. So, Phil, how are you doing today? Thank you for joining us, man.
Yeah, unreal, guys. Thanks for having me, and huge win for the Sens today. Saw a couple of highlights, saw that big goal by Stützle, so super pumped for them, and yeah, excited for today.
Yeah, it was. It was a crazy game. We haven't even talked about it yet. Jack did a live stream through the whole thing. Like he was live on the whole game. So it was insane. But obviously we're happy that they won. Close one. But yeah, we want to get to know you a little bit better today. So thanks for joining us, of course. I'm just gonna start it off with a little bit of background about you. Just kind of who you are, like growing up. I know you're from Barrie, but you played in the QMJHL, like just your journey to being a professional hockey player, being picked in the sixth round, like just an open ended question for you to kind of introduce yourself and get people to know you a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, so my family is from up north around Sudbury area in Ontario, and I'm from Barrie. I was born and raised in Barrie. Played kind of my minor hockey in Barrie. Played 1 year in the GTHL for Don Mills, my minor midget year. I ended up going undrafted in the OHL because my minor midget year, I was 5'3", 120 pounds. So a lot of people call me a late bloomer. I tend to agree with that a little bit. So after that season, went undrafted in the OHL. I grew to about 5'10" in about 6 months. So got a huge growth spurt. Um, Ended up playing a midget year, so I guess for some people in out east, I guess it's like midget triple A, it's all called the same thing, I guess. So I played down in Barrie that year, ended up playing 1 year junior A, up in French River in the NOJHL. Didn't have the best team down there, but you know what? It was really good for my development, had a lot of ice time, and really enjoyed it down there. It's a really good development league playing against older boys, so, that was a lot of fun. Had a pretty good year down there. Uh, had just over a point per game and ended up getting recruited by a lot of teams in the QMJHL, but, picked the Moncton Wildcats down there. They had a really good program, really nice facility down there, and they gave me a lot of ice time, and we had a really good team down there that year. Just some notable names, I mean, like Jacob Pelletier, Elvio Rodrigue, Jared McIsaac, all guys who are playing the American League, and Pelletier was supposed to make the Flames this year, so learned a lot from them, and fortunately got drafted by the Sens that year, in the 6th round, and, that was a dream come true, I mean, as a kid, I've always, wanted to play in the NHL and, still trying to chase that dream, but definitely a big step getting picked by the Sens and pretty cool to be pretty close to home and, it's super excited, just unreal memory. So, since then, it's been ups and downs. I mean, obviously, had a few injuries and I think that happens in the game, but, ended up being fortunate winning a Memorial Cup with the St. John Sea Dogs as well. So that's another, I would say top 3, hockey memory, and, I definitely have the ring, hanging around in my room and, kinda just check it out once in a while, but, I'm just pumped to be, in Belleville now and just trying to develop and try to make that next step to the NHL, so
Yeah, we got lots of questions just about every place you've been, and you mentioned the junior A development path, and that's a pretty popular way I think now, even as years go on, for guys to just go junior A, go college or whatever. So when
Mhm.
you were skipped over in that OHL year, and you mentioned the height and everything like that, was it ever in the back of your mind, like even when you went to French River, like was it a in the back of your mind, like NCAA might be an option here for me, or were you always in the mindset I want to go major junior, and when the Q came calling, that was the way to go?
Yeah, I mean, for sure, I think there's obviously a little bit of doubt, I think every kid's dream from usually Ontario is to get drafted in the OHL, and, when I didn't get picked, I obviously was a little bit worried, but I knew I was a late bloomer. I knew it would just take me a little bit more time than other kids to kinda, hit my peak and catch up to some of the other kids, so, I mean, to be honest, I was just kinda going into that junior A year, just trying to do my best and kinda see what my options were. So once I kinda heard a bunch of junior A teams or, sorry, major junior teams calling, I mean, I kind of figured because I am a late birthday, I did have 1 full season in major junior to kinda make a name for myself, um, get seen by NHL teams, and I think that's kinda what me and my family ended up making that decision off of, was just having that extra year of development, and, I knew Moncton going in, they were gonna give me a good amount of ice time on a good team, so, I knew I would have every opportunity to kinda make a name for myself, so.
Yeah, so yeah, I know you mentioned St. John too, and obviously Moncton seemed like an awesome program, but you got sent to St. John. St. John has a lot of ties with Ottawa in the sense that
Oh,
like
yeah.
Thomas Chabot, right, Matthew Joseph, Matthew Highmore, like they've got a whole list of players that have played there. But I want to hear a little bit about that Memorial Cup year and kind of what you took from that experience, and then a little note too. Just doing my research, and I saw that you guys beat Hamilton that year, and Michael Andlauer, who now owns the Sens, obviously owns Hamilton. So there's a little tie there too. Like it all connects. It's this like whole big web, right? That's interweb. So just a little bit about that experience and what you took from that.
Yeah, I mean, that year was honestly a crazy year. I ended up going to Sens camp and, having a really good camp, and I ended up starting the season in Belleville. I ended up, signing an AHL contract, but, I left halfway through the year. I think it was kind of a mutual decision. I just wasn't getting that much ice time, and it wasn't good for my development, so, that year when I went back, I was supposed to go back to Moncton, but, Moncton was kinda still in a rebuilding phase, and um, St. John was a powerhouse and they were obviously hosting the Mem Cup. So, uh, and we've played Moncton and St. John are rivals. So, I knew a couple of the guys on St. John and I knew how good they were going to be. And that was definitely something I wanted to be a part of, and, obviously, I knew a lot of guys like you said, Shabby and Joe and, a couple of guys in Belleville. I mean, Highmore and Boko, Imama, they played down there, and, just talking a little bit with Shabby during training camp, he said how good of a organization, St. John was, and, I kinda really wanted to join in on that and obviously try to win that ring, and um, obviously, it was definitely a little bit, of a cool feeling to beat Hamilton, an OHL team. A lot of, OHL teams passed up on me, so it was pretty cool, and I'm pretty sure, obviously, new, presidents of hockey operations, Steve Staios was the GM there at the time, so, it's crazy how it comes in full circle, and, it was a lot of fun, like, honestly, that winning that cup and, I'm gonna be buddies with that whole team for life. We still text each other. We still send memories, videos of us lifting that cup. So, it's definitely a moment that I'm never gonna forget, and it was always a little bit bittersweet to beat Hamilton in the finals. But, if I run into Steve Staios soon, I'll kinda chirp him a little bit about it. I'm sure we'll have a little laugh about it. But, yeah, it was pretty cool.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, we got a lot of questions too about just the management turnovers behind the scenes at camp because it was a hectic time around then. But just wanted to ask about the draft, and the draft was the most unique one we've ever seen. Obviously, with COVID and everything, it was 6 months after it was supposed to be, so you got even more time before.
Yeah.
Did you have like an idea going in that you knew that this was the draft for you? Because obviously, a bit of like a year over age pick, I guess, or was it your late birthday, no. So yeah, this was
Yeah.
this was your
Yeah,
draft. So
first
did
year.
you know going in like this is I'm good here, or were you kind of on the edge of your seat just watching on TV like everyone else?
Yeah, I mean, everyone kinda says this, you never know in the draft, and you never know where you can get picked. I mean, I knew I was gonna be kind of a later round pick. I was kind of on nobody's radar. I came out of nowhere a little bit. I definitely had a few meetings with a few teams, but, I felt like I had a really good meeting with the Sens, and I ended up having a couple meetings with them, and, it was all positive stuff, obviously, and super cool questions and stuff, but, I had figured I kinda had a good feeling that I was gonna go around in the late rounds, like the 6th or 7th round, and I kinda saw the Sens ended up having 2 picks early in that 6th round, I'm pretty sure it was, or something like that, and I just kinda had a gut feeling, but all I remember was that, when I was in New Brunswick playing for Moncton at the time, and there was all those border restrictions, so, I wasn't with a bunch of people for my draft, that watching the draft, I was just with my billets and my family were on Zoom, but, no, I mean, it's not I would say probably in the 3rd, 4th round, I started losing hope, obviously, and it's kinda you're kinda overthinking stuff, but, no, obviously I'm thankful and super pumped that it was the Sens.
Yeah, so I know I watched a video of your post draft. You did an interview, and you said that Ottawa was one of the teams you were hoping to get picked by. Now I know a lot of players probably say that after they get picked because you're like super thankful. But like you being from Ontario, I thought maybe like you actually might, obviously you're going to be closer to home. Maybe that was one of the reasons. But did you know much about the Sens before you got picked, and kind of what were your pre-draft interviews like? If you can share anything that any weird questions they might have asked you, if there was anything that you remember.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, just being an Ontario kid, obviously, like, when you think about it, you wanna be close to your family, play in front of your family and friends, so obviously, I mean, the Leafs, as much as I don't wanna say it, but the Leafs and the Sens and obviously even Montreal were all teams that, like, you kinda have in the back of your mind that would be pretty cool to play for. But, like, my dad and my brother were pretty big Sens fans when they were younger, so, I kinda grew up just watching the Sens and watching Alfie and those guys kinda play, and so, getting picked by them was super kinda crazy, but, super happy, and I mean, my dad was almost as excited as I was, so so he was pretty pumped about it, but in terms of, like, the meetings and stuff I think probably the most interesting question was, they asked me what my worst hockey memory was in my career, and I kinda to be honest, I was a little bit shocked, I don't feel like teams ask those kinds of questions, but it was obviously to see how I would react to it, and it definitely took me a little bit to think about what it would be. But then it just came down to, I've lost some championships, and obviously a pretty bad memory was just not getting picked in the OHL. I mean, like, that was a big dream of mine, just getting picked in the OHL. So, I kinda answered that, but, there's not I kinda had pretty simple interviews and I had it pretty easy, so, it ended up being okay, but that was probably I guess, hardest question, and it was by the Sens, so it was interesting, yeah.
Well, that draft for Ottawa is something special, and we just see it every day, and it's exciting even still. Like, I think they had, you mentioned how many picks they had. It was like 14 players or something like that. Like
Oh, yeah.
they added a lot, like big draft class for you guys. We wanted to ask a little bit about Allen. We don't really get a lot of stuff about the ECHL. You were there briefly, but just maybe, I mean, a lot of players now, the deeper the system is, the more players are going to be down there that you pay attention to, obviously. So what was your experience like down there? And then we'll get into Belleville and everything, but just
Yeah.
with Allen, like what was that like?
Yeah, I mean, first thing I kinda noticed was the weather. I landed in Allen and it wasn't 5 degrees or 8 degrees, it was, 27 degrees and sunny out there, and I was like, "I should have brought my golf clubs." But, no, I mean, it's a great organization, they got a sick building and a great group of guys, good staff, I mean, they wanna win. I think they're having a little bit of a rough patch right now just in terms of winning, but, they definitely work really hard. The owners are awesome down there. The league is definitely like a development league as well. Some guys are just late at developing and like even in Belleville, there's a lot of veterans. So and I hadn't played the year before. So, for me it was just getting some ice time and getting my feet under me. So but yeah, I don't have anything bad to say about that team, about that organization in the league. It's a really good league. I mean, it's just it kind of depends on some teams. Some teams are deeper than others, so you do play some better teams, and then there's some teams that are weaker. So, but yeah, I did really enjoy it. I had Levy down there with me, and Levy was getting piped with 55 shots down there and keeping us in games. So, no, it was pretty cool. And obviously, I'd rather play in Belleville, but it was a cool experience to go down there for sure.
Yeah, so kind of building on that, you've played 28 games for Belleville now over the last 3 seasons, including this one, and you played 5 in the ECHL. So I'm curious to know what your thoughts are on kind of how the leagues vary, like compared to junior. Like you were in the rookie tournament too, facing some of the other top prospects. How do all the leagues vary for you, and what do you think the kind of differences are and the challenges that come with playing in the AHL and then the ECHL compared to junior as well?
Yeah, I would say, the jump from probably junior to the ECHL isn't that big. There's a lot of skilled players out there. Like, I look back at my time in Allen. I mean, even fourth line guys are just very skilled players. It's a lot of skill guys who are just trying to kind of find their way to try to make that next jump. And I mean, the league that I was in the QMJHL, I would say it's a lot less physical than the OHL and the WHL, but very skilled. Um, But I would say there's a huge jump from, junior to the American League. You're playing against bigger, faster guys who are older, who are just, I feel like they don't panic with the puck and little things like that, that just kind of makes a pretty big difference between, a 16-year-old who has the puck in the corner in his 10th QMJHL game compared to, a guy on our team, Josh Curry, a 30-year-old who, it seems like he never panics. Like so I feel like that's a pretty big difference. And just in terms of, rookie camp in Buffalo, like you kind of have a mix of both, you kind of do have a couple of American League players. And I feel like that's where, like guys like even with us in the Sens, like me, Ostapchuk and Boucher when he was down there a couple years ago. It's just, you see those high-end prospects or guys who are playing the American League have more of that poise with the puck and know what to do with it more compared to guys who are still playing junior, who are a bit younger. They're still trying to kind of realize the game and notice that jump. So I think that's the biggest thing is just kind of the speed of it and the strength of some guys.
That's cool to hear because the coast especially and like the AHL too over the years feels like it's gotten more skilled, and that's what you should have, right? You draft all these prospects, you want them to thrive.
For
Um,
sure.
I just got a question just about the organization in general. I mentioned all the change, and you mentioned Steve Staios stepping in, and Lauer taking over all during training camp. Like it was a whirlwind. Obviously now Staios is the interim GM. So as a prospect going into NHL camp, AHL camp, you get this message from management, and not that it's directly impacting you every day, but if you get told something in an exit interview and then a few weeks later that GM's no longer working, I'm sure it was the first time for a lot of people in the organization because it was so long. Like, does that change your plan going forward? Is there communication with everyone being like just keep going? Like I'm really curious just the ripple effect something like that has on the entire organization if you felt it at all.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, like, my exit interview with Ottawa, I mean, obviously, it was with, DJ Smith and David Bell, our coach in Belleville, and then Ryan Bonus. So, we weren't too much in contact with Pierre. I mean, he is behind the scenes, obviously, calling the big shots at the time, but, um, you know, knowing that I'm a prospect, I think we're more, in convo with Ryan Bonus and David Bell and those guys. So, I mean, we kinda are just following kind of well, at least for me, I'm following more what's, David Bell, our coach down here, is kinda telling me, he's just trying to develop our whole game. Um, you know, obviously, at camp, we weren't really expecting any change, but once we found out about the change in Belleville, I mean, we just kinda kept going with the flow. Just there's not too much change down in Belleville since, Bonus is obviously still working and grinding for us, but, we're just kinda just going with the flow, keeping our routines. I mean, it might be different up in the NHL, but I know for us, it was the same smooth sailing, kinda doing our own routines.
Yeah, and David Bell was there too, right before he ended up taking over. So there was already some familiarity with the organization. It's not like they had to bring somebody in.
Yeah,
But just pivoting a little bit too into your some of the mental things. So we had Igor Sokolov on the pod a little while back,
right.
and he's like he went on like for minutes and minutes and about like the mental side of things. He was such a good speaker.
Yeah,
But he
for
talked a
sure.
lot about the mental side of a hockey player and being a pro in the sense that fans don't really get to see that at all, right? Like you have a lot that you're dealing with behind the scenes. So I know for you, last year you dealt with the season-ending injury, the shoulder after 9 games. You're almost a point per game in Belleville to that point. Just maybe like how have you dealt with the mental barriers and the adversity and the rehab? But even just like not injury based, like just in general, what is it like to kind of deal with the mental have to get away from the game? Because I know Igor said you guys are committed to like training all the time, every
Oh,
single day
yeah.
almost. It's like it's almost unbelievable how much you guys train. So what's it like to have to kind of get away from that and also then have to deal with injuries and the other adversity that comes with being a pro?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, when it just comes to the mental side of injuries, just based on me, having a season-ending injury is probably the worst news you can get, obviously. I mean, I know for me, I just want to be out there trying to help the boys and try to win games and obviously prove to myself, to Ottawa, that I can make that jump sooner rather than later. But in terms of like all around mental, I mean, what Soko said was pretty accurate. It's just like we're always grinding, we're always in the gym, we're always practicing our craft. I think it's just trying to find ways to get away from the rink, and I think David Bell's really good at, talking with each player, kind of just seeing how they're doing, doesn't even have to be about hockey. So he definitely helps on that side, but it's also on us, like when we're getting away from the rink, we just got to try to find ways to just get our minds away from hockey because hockey is stressful. Hockey is a grind. There's so many ups and downs throughout the year with injuries, and you might get bumped down in the lineup. You might be scratched one game, and it's just trying to find ways to one keep your confidence, and one just try to stay level headed, and trying to find ways to just get in, whether it's back in the lineup or moving up in the lineup. So I know for me, when I get away from the rink, I love to cook and, my girlfriend, when she's around here, I kinda tell her to not do anything. I love cooking meals and we'll go for walks. We'll try to do whatever it is to just kinda get my mind off things. So I do like to play video games. Some of the boys like to play video games, so try to play with them a little bit. So it's just trying to find little ways to just kinda get your mind off things and 'cause, hockey is tough, and I think behind the scenes, some fans don't really do understand everything that's going on in a player's, routine every day. So, yeah, pretty much what Soko said is accurate. I'll jump on that.
Just another question. I feel like with Soko and any guy you see just in training camp, like is there a moment you had just with any of the guys on the Sens or even in Belleville where you're like, okay, wow, I've like this is pro hockey. I'm in the show right now, like or in training camp. Like, do you have any moment like that they had maybe this season or last?
Yeah, that's actually funny. I mean, last year at training camp, we were kind of doing battle drills. It was at main camp, and we were doing 2v2s and tight around the net, and, I kinda bumped, Timmy on his ass a little bit, and, he's a very competitive guy with everything he does, obviously, that's his nature, I mean, that's all our natures, but, he got up and gave me a pretty big cross check right in the ribs and then put me on my ass, so I think that was a moment was like, "Okay, don't piss him off," but, like, you kinda have to, you're trying to battle for a spot on the team, but,
So that was
and,
last training camp.
yeah,
It was
like,
right
not
after he
just
signed that ticket too.
yeah, yeah, right after he signed his ticket, so I guess he wanted to prove everyone that he deserved all that money, right? But, there's that one, and obviously, battling against, Brady Tkachuk, I mean, he's so big and strong, and, yeah, he is a really probably the best power forward in the league, and, we were doing an angling drill, and he absolutely just blew me wide and took just I couldn't catch up to him, and he's so strong, so kinda opened my eyes, it's like, "Holy, I gotta I gotta pick it up in the gym or or with my skating instructor." So, no, I would probably say those 2 things, yeah.
Yeah, so with training camp too, like those are hilarious stories, by the way. But with training camp, like obviously this year and last, I guess as well, like Claude Giroux, Vladimir Tarasenko now, like these are guys who I'm assuming you probably watched growing up and kind of looked up to a
Yeah.
little bit in certain senses. Like, what's it like to be around guys like that? Obviously, I don't know how much you actually got to talk to those guys, but even just being on the same ice surface as some of those legends of the game, like what is that like, and what do you take from them on the ice and off the ice?
Yeah, I mean, they're all unreal guys. I don't talk to them that much, but if we run into each other, they ask me how's it going. They say how good morning, whatever it is, and they're all unreal guys. But when I'm on the ice with them, I kind of just try to look at them and see certain things, how they protect the puck. Or I know with Giroux, like I'm trying to watch how he takes faceoffs and things like that. So they're veterans, just like the names you said, Giroux and Tarasenko, those 2 are veterans, and they've been around a long time, so you just try to pick their brains whenever, they're not busy, you ask them questions if you can, and, they're super good guys, and they try to help out the prospects and everyone they talk to, so, and even just on the off ice as well, you see how they treat themselves in the gym and how much they take care of their bodies, and, I don't know how old, Giroux is, but he's one of the guys who's in the gym first, out of the gym last, like, trying to also having fun playing pickleball in the gym, little things like that to keep the gym loose and the boys loose, but, just watching him, it's super, eye-opening as a young guy and just trying to jump on his back almost and follow his lead.
That's great. And I got one more for you. I don't know about Brennan, but just you mentioned all these guys, and we you mentioned Alfie growing up. Your family were Sens fans. Like, do you have if you had to describe your game for someone who hasn't watched you play and just and link it to someone in the NHL right now, like who would you say is a guy you kind of model your game after in the league right now?
Yeah, no, that's a good question. I mean, I definitely got asked that question a bunch of times in interviews, my draft year, but I've always, I've always felt like I've played a little bit like Mitch Marner, kinda I slow the game down. I'm very good offensively, probably a pass first kinda guy. That's kinda something I wanna add to my game is trying to shoot the puck more. But yeah, I know if I'm on a 2-on-1, I definitely would rather make the pass than rip the puck. So I would probably say that I do slow the game down. I am good up in the middle of the ice in the neutral zone and kicking the puck out to my wingers, but I am trying to build my two-way game. I would like to be more of a Braden Point. And I think I am learning to be that way, a two-way centerman that, that can skate and obviously create offense. But yeah, right now I would say I'm a little bit more like Mitch Marner who likes to slow the game down, but we got to change that up a little bit, I think.
Yeah, and I've got one more for you too. So, just what are your objectives moving forward? I know obviously the NHL is the most likely thing. What do you think you have to do to get there? And yeah, what are your objectives? And is an NHL debut in the not so distant future for you?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, objective is to stay healthy as much as possible. That's just one thing with me. I've had a tough go with injuries the last I would say year or two. So um and, I think in terms of, making an NHL debut, I think I don't try to think about it too much. I don't wanna put that pressure on me, but, I think for me to get that chance is to really, be better a little bit on the defensive side, and I think, as a young guy going pro, that's definitely, like, the biggest thing to adjust to and learn. But I think, with Ballsy as our coach, he's really good with the guys and he's really good and picky with the systematic work, so I think, he's definitely gonna keep me straight and try to help me out on that defensive side. I think my offensive game is there. It's just, trying to figure out that defensive side of the game, which, I think I'll learn with time, so.
That's great, man. This has been awesome. We really appreciate your time tonight and just in general. So thanks so much for joining us, man.
Yeah, no, thanks for having me, guys. It was super fun.